What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Wheel Route Fantasy Football Channel. I'm Kev Wheeler. Going to take a look at this week's matchup, do some rankings, answer some questions. Let me know if you got any. I could certainly use some interaction on here. Of course, I thought I was ready this time. I'm more ready than I was last week, but just a couple things. It's hard to iron everything out when you're flying solo all the time. I'll tell you what, I need to hit one of these battle royales or even bigger, so I can get a web designer to fix up this web page a little bit, a producer to help with the streaming, all this stuff. It's a lot more challenging than it looks, for sure. All right, just let's dive into the night. We got no important inactives. Well, Chris Rodriguez is inactive again. I didn't see that right off the bat. I really hadn't planned on him being active, but I probably do have, I have him deep in my rankings. Just want to get him out of there. Nothing else looks pertinent to anything that we need for fantasy. I should have looked deeper into this George Fant. He might have been out for a while, though. I honestly don't know. But check out my rankings on wheelrouteff.com. You can also check out, Cade Stover's out there. I did kind of know that. Let me edit that real quick, though. I'm just over here checking out my rankings last second. They are all up to date this week. I shouldn't need to do any fidgeting around this week until Sunday morning, or if I get news during the next couple days, I'll adjust accordingly. But for now, the rankings should be all up to date. I did a little bit more research today than I usually do during the week. Usually I don't get the bulk of my research done until Friday night or Saturday afternoon, and then I do the adjustments Sunday morning. This Sunday morning I made a lot of adjustments that actually ended up costing me, especially at quarterback, I believe. I came in 43rd in the accuracy rankings, which isn't bad for week one. But a good week one can really pace you up front, just because the first couple of weeks are extremely erratic. I've seen some of the best, most accurate rankers come in like the bottom 10% in week one. And week two fluctuates almost just as much. We have a little bit more data, but as I was emphasizing, or as I emphasized in the rankings article, I might as well flip that to you. We got to be careful and not overreact to what we saw in week one. We want to make sure that we're not, we want to make sure to be Bayesian, but we want to make sure that we're not adjusting our priors so much that we're using all this, what could end up being outlier information. And here I highlight this, just the Justin Jefferson's rookie season. Rookies usually start out slow, but it gives a good picture of what can go kind of crazy, wild, and wacky when you talk about week one and week two. Really, we don't have a full enough picture until about week 6, week 7. I always say 5 weeks of data is good. But at the beginning of the season, I don't usually put too much weight in weeks 1 and week 2, just because really by week 7, most teams have had injuries, or people come back from injuries, or people come back from suspension. So that they're almost different teams by then too. So even by mid-season, things fluctuate so much in the NFL. And I guess that's my whole point. Weeks 1 and 2, you're probably going to see the greatest variance as you see all season. Although it wasn't, we weren't too far off. If you look at the waiver wire article, I also have rest of season rankings at the bottom of that article, which I think are the most important rankings. A couple of years ago, uh, in 2022, I was the most accurate rest of season ranker, and after 2022, they stopped tracking who's the most accurate. And I've in 20, even the 2 years before that, I was in the top five. Um, it's one of those where you don't find too many people in the industry wanting to promote my work. One, because I'm better than most of them, and two, because I rub it in their face. I don't care. And you know, I people always say, just don't be a dick. I'm not being a dick. I'm being more of an asshole. I'm just calling people out for being fake or being hype beasts. I mean, and I've been doing it since 2015. So, you know, when I first started this, Matthew Berry actually sucked at being accurate. He's gotten a lot better now because his, project that he's gaining a whole lot of money from, the fantasy life stuff. He's got some really good people working for him. But I'll never be one of those corporate drones. Just, well, never and always are two of the dumbest words in our language, but I'm going to do everything I can to avoid it. Although my full-time job is teaching, and I'm not so sure not so sure I'm that passionate about it anymore. Anyway, yada, 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 gossip, blah, blah, blah. Let's get to tonight's matchup. Great way to look at certain matchups. I don't think he goes into every matchup every week, but this week he's doing the Thursday night matchup, Washington at Green Bay. I actually subscribed to Corbin Young's web Substack. I don't like contributing to Substack either because the company as a whole is crap. But a lot of people use Substack to kind of promote their work, and Corbin Young has some fantastic work. I actually was a colleague of his at the 33rd team, collaborated with him on a couple of things. Really, he did most of the work, and I just did more the rankings or whatever, or incorporated it in. But really, really good guy, really smart guy, taking these deep dives, really detailed analysis of what's going on today or tonight. I might as well go over a little bit of that with you. Some of the important takes from it. It has the second highest game total of the week, just second to Jaguars Bengals. The Commanders' offensive line ranked, is that the one I'm showing you? Commanders' offensive line ranked 6th in adjusted air yards before contact per attempt. It's a metric that really is a telling tale. But unfortunately, it's strength versus strength because the Packers D-line has limited opposing rushers to they're good against the run, according to Corbin's metrics. Jaden Daniels led the team last week with a 34% rush share. JCM, or Bill, as he likes to be known, was second with 31%, Eckler with 19%, but Eckler also added in a couple of targets in the passing game. And I really expect that will be kind of their usage going forward. I think, what is it showing? The snap percentage. Yeah, he has some good charts and good write-ups here. He gets really into detail. I'm going to talk about another analyst that I look at his work, just superfluous. has too much detail. um, let's take a look. Some more information. Oh, Josh Jacobs projects to have one of the best rushing matchups in week 2. I, you know, I think I was saying last week with the Marshawn Lloyd constantly being injured, Josh Jacobs really in line for a great season. Wish I drafted more of him. I was very high on Marshawn Lloyd, hoping he would be healthy, and really never is. I would have thought that like the Packers probably would have or should have gotten Tank Bigsby or somebody of that ilk, or even if it was who got traded to the Niners, Brian Robinson, that type of guy to take kind of some of the load off Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs has been carrying a full load for several years now, and doing well. So you don't really want to take the ball out of his hands, but at some point he's probably going to get worn down. But anyway, this week I have Jacobs as my fifth highest ranked running back, just behind the main four. Actually, no, I have him be. Oh, I moved Derrick Henry way up after last week's performance. He's a monster, man. Derrick Henry is just wow, and he looks spry this year too. It's really weird when you watch Derrick Henry run. He doesn't look like the mammoth beast he is, or when he looked when he was with the Texans. He looks like a running back instead of a D tackle. But yeah, he looks good. He's old, but for football, obviously. But yeah, I moved Derrick Henry way up and Josh Jacobs up a bit. Barkley is down a bit going against Kansas City. But you can check out those rankings at the Wheel Route or wheelrouteff.com. All right. So Josh Jacobs, if you got him, you're starting him, you're happy. Packers. Oh, they're passing more again this year. Love is healthy. They're passing more. They passed at the third highest percentage in neutral game scripts in week 1. And again, we don't want to read too much into anything when it comes to just the week 1 stats, but it's a good indication that they are going to pass more. And actually, I think that benefits Jacobs because he can catch the ball and it will kind of lighten up the boxes. Last year, they ran at a very high rate because Love was hurt most of the season. So this year should be a little bit different, and they should be a little bit more high-powered on offense. In fact, I want to move Jordan Love up the rankings a little bit this week. I have him at QB 15. I can't move him. I could move him ahead of Trevor Lawrence, but Trevor Lawrence is playing Cincinnati, so there's just as good a chance that he can have a great week. But Jordan Love is set up for a good this week. So if you, I don't know, if you're contemplating between him and Goff, for say, I would start Love over Goff. McCarthy is a little bit banged up, it seems, so I would start Love over McCarthy. I have Caleb. I have Love ahead of Caleb Williams, but I might be moving Williams up a bit. I just don't know really how much. I don't really have Jordan Love in a startable kind of position. I have 14 guys ahead of him, but wouldn't blame you if you did. Wouldn't blame you if you did. If you're a Packers fan, start Love tonight. All right. Commanders' defensive line didn't really bring pressure in week 1. They didn't necessarily have to against the Giants. The Packers have an average offensive line, pass defense. Oh, offensive line. Sorry, did I say defensive line? Packers offensive line is middle of the pack when it comes to allowing pressure. When Jordan Love isn't pressured, he did amazing last year. So that's why I am fairly high in him. Yeah, just kind of scanning that. You can definitely go into detail in this article. I'm kind of going off my notes from the article, but ultimately, what I ended up doing from this information, I moved Love up as no. I'm gonna move him up one more spot. Just it's a tough decision, and this is where rankings kind of become difficult, especially when there's Thursday games. Thursday games are the worst when it comes to ranking because it's just so hard to place people, and you kind of have to pattern yourself for injuries. So like, but if a guy like Jakari Krosky Merritt, I think that expert consensus, and I use expert lightly. I kind of use a different expert consensus. I only look at a few of the consensus guys to kind of get my gauge on where they should be ranked or how far off I am to ECR. The general ECR has JCM or Bill at running back 28. I moved them up to running back 24. I would say if you're debating between him and somebody else in the flex, he's safe enough to put as a starting running back tonight. Don't start anybody tonight in your flex position if it matters in your format. Just get them in the position so you have flexibility in the flex, even though you probably have something that you are definitive you're going to start, but you never know what injuries or arrests or anything might pop up. So JCM is a possible start. I have him RB 24, definitely flex worthy or even as an RB 2. Eckler I have right along with consensus at running back 33. He's a possible flex, but really splitting touches and, I do have it here, I think. Last week, or Corbin has it here, really. Yeah, it was Eckler with 33% of the snaps. Or no, sorry, 33 total snaps, 47% of the snaps. He outsnapped JCM, but did not out-touch him. About even on the touches. He had 3 targets. He had, yeah, JCM definitely out-touched him. Targets plus attempts. Do what you will there. I guess in deeper leagues, Eckler can definitely be a flex, but I wouldn't jump on him in the more shallow leagues. At wide receiver, let's see. I have McLaurin at wide receiver 24. I don't necessarily want him there, but that's one below consensus. So I'm kind of fine with that. I think if I had some more time to think about it, I might lower him below Devontae Smith, maybe DJ Moore. I actually think Tyreek Hill is kind of a sneaky start this week. People are probably down in him after Miami's performance last week, but week 1, and now they're at home against New England, and traditionally New England has trouble in Miami. It's a division game, so things are just different. We can't necessarily go by talent or that necessarily. So yeah, actually, let me move this over here so I'm not facing away from the mic. Um, Sorry if that jacked you up a little bit. Let me see. I have Debo at wide receiver 29. I actually think that is ahead of just barely ahead of consensus. Um, and again, I would like to move him. I would like to move him a little bit higher, but I expect Pickens to have a great week against the Giants. I just talked about the other three guys I have ahead of him, and then McLaurin. Tough to judge. Don't when there isn't a 100% clear picture, you don't want to deviate too much from consensus. I do have Jaden Reed about 5 spots ahead of consensus. Um, it looks like the report of the Jones fracture was probably inaccurate, or at least overblown. Uh, Apparently, it was a radio talk show host that said it, and everybody went nuts about it. And we got to listen to doctors and trainers and not hype. I caught some hype last week and missed out on that. I lowered him in my rankings last second, and it burned me. Um, I have Stephon Diggs here right below Jaden Reed. I would like to move Stephon Diggs up. I think I need to look deeper at it, but on the surface, I think he's one of those guys that may not have done great in week one, but they're probably going to want to get him the ball in week two just so he doesn't start crying. Um, then again, how many? I'm going to look real quick. Yeah, it's 7 targets. Like he's 6 receptions. He just needs to break one, and I think Diggs has it in him. I want to move him up, but there's a lot of guys this week. There's a ton of receivers that are very start worthy at this point. Um, Wide receivers are going to surprise us, and if you looked at the scoring compared to rankings last week at the wide receiver position, it was a shit show. It was just so. As far as accuracy goes, like usually it's based on how many points you're off. So the higher your score, the worse you did. Um, and the consensus in general averaged a score of like in the 270s when it came to running backs, but it was like in the 660s uh, for wide receiver. And usually wide receiver is a little in the closer to the 400 range, and running back is closer to the like 320 range in there, as far as just the general consensus being off in points the way they score it. You can look on Fantasy Pros for their methodology. And if you, I think a Fantasy Pros subscription is a great idea. I wish I had a promo code. I tried to get a promo code. I need to pursue that again. But if you could just, if it asks where you heard about it from, just reference my website or my website, wheelrouteff.com. And hopefully they can hook me up there. Uh, but anyway, a subscription is well worth it. And I think they got some promotional things going on now. It's a great time to do it. Get it. Other perspectives. I mean, one perspective, or, my perspective isn't always the greatest, but my methodology is to combine other people's ideas too, other projections, other news. I like to get it all in. And one of the things I definitely want to do is give credit where it's due. And I've said this name before. I didn't pull up the website or his article, but Nathan Yankee is a guy that you want to pay attention to. The A couple of the other ones I'm going to pull up in a couple of minutes. Nathan Yankee, Sean Croner, John Paulson, all really very, very good to reference. Okay. Oh, so I moved up Jaden Reed just because, what was it? I think it was something Corbin said. It might have been Corbin, or I'm going to talk about Ben Gretsch a little bit later. It could have been him. Um, where am I? It was the Packers receivers, and I didn't talk about this when I was talking about matchups. Oh, Christian Watson led the team in yards per route run last season against man coverages. So uh, the Commanders love running cover one, which is basically a man coverage. Christian Watson, I read it wrong. I read it as Matthew Golden led the team in yards per route run, something or other. My brain didn't work, brain fart. So Christian Watson led the team in yards per route run last season um, with a very high rate. Reed and Dubs tied as a 29% target share against man coverage. Kraft led all pass catchers with a 40% target rate. That is why everybody seemed high on Kraft. And I did move Kraft up to my tight end 6, I believe. I shouldn't jump to the tight end. Tight ends will be quick. So, yeah, I moved Tucker Kraft up to 6 just because Andrews is going to come down considerably. Although they're probably going to give him more focus last week because he only had 1 catch for 5 yards last week. I'll decide on that before game time on Sunday. So yeah, there will be some adjusting with it, but I moved Kraft ahead of Hawkinson and Hawkinson. There aren't a lot of targets to go around in that offense right now. Although there should be with Addison out. I'll just move Andrews below. I have trouble moving Andrews below Pitts. Just Pitts is high now, but he got targeted. But anyway, Kraft, very startable at tight end. I missed that. Glad I went back and covered it. So everybody looks good against man coverage. Dubs, Reed, Golden. Golden wasn't great against man coverage last week, but if I'm pretty sure Golden and Christian Watson, or Golden took over Christian Watson's position. That's why they drafted him. So he could still have a good week. And I moved him up a couple of spots. I guess that's long story short. I moved him up a bit. If for no other reason. I mean, I moved him up to wide receiver 44. So the likelihood of you wanting or needing to start him this week is pretty low unless you're in a league that has like 3 flexes or something like that. And I'm in a lot of those leagues. So I kind of think towards that. And just the last week, I moved Pittman way up because of the matchup and Daniel Jones starting. He's way down because he's projected low against Denver, but I want to look into that too because Pittman's going to be the main target in Indianapolis. And I know I'm kind of going off on tangents here, but that is just what I do. I do it as a teacher too. I'm told it makes me entertaining. I think it's more like I'm hard to follow, but you get what you get. Anyway, so I don't think I moved Dobbs up at all. Just want to check this. I have him 1 spot ahead of consensus. Must have been something in Corbin's analysis that just had me off of Dobbs. Although I like Dobbs a lot. And I think what it is that when Reed is healthy, that's the first go-to. That's the first look. Dobbs, I think, had a bad week last week, too. I can double check that. Let me double check that. Yeah, only 4 targets last week for 68 yards. So there could be some down the field action for him. It's just really hard to move him. I like Quentin Johnson this week. One guy I like and pay a lot of attention to is he works for FTN now. I don't want to really promote FTN, but Tyler O. I don't even want to attempt his last name. Originski, like original. Tyler Originski. Huh. Pretty cool. Anyway, I really like accessing or reading his work. He, like me, thinks Tyreek Hill is going to have a bounce back week. I've been high on Harold Fannin all along. I think I have Fannin ranked. I think I moved him down just because the consensus was lower than me. Where do I have Fannin? I have him at 19 against Baltimore. I need to look into that. I think I can move Fannin up as high as 12 or 13 by the time game time rolls around. But yeah, I just need to look at. I know the Ravens' pass defense struggled last week, which means Fannin, we need to think of like a more talented Mike Gesicki fan, or even a more just as talented Kyle Pitts. They're receivers. They're not really tight ends. They have tight end eligibility. Fannin did line up a good amount in line, but really his role was the pass catcher slot kind of guy. Even lined up outside some last week. Jacoby Myers, I've been high on. He's really consistent, and yeah, he's the Raiders' number 2 wide receiver. Going to see targeted. I think Myers is. I think Myers is very talented. I think he is underhyped because his first 3 years or so in New England, they could not get him a touchdown. But it wasn't like he didn't deserve them. He got tackled at the 1 or inside the 5, a massive amount. And that sometimes it's on the wide receiver, but like whatever. I'm a Jacoby Myers fan, and I think he's underrated. Devon Achane should have a bounce back this week. The Miami Dolphins, I said before, should have a bounce back week altogether. He likes Tracy and Dylan Sampson. I moved both of them up. Actually, I want to move Dylan Sampson up a bit more. Just hard to picture it this early in the week. He says to sit Kincaid. I need to look more into that. I need to look more into all of this, just kind of skimming. But good reference. Don't want to promote the company he works for, but Tyler O. I'm in a couple dynasty leagues with him too. He was number 1 last year in the accuracy rankings. So definitely pay attention to what he has to say. This is it. Matthew Golden. He's looking him as being developmental still, which could be very accurate. He says to sit Dallas Goedert. So I was kind of torn. Let me just check. I have Ertz at tight end 12. I have Ertz at tight end 12, 1 spot behind Goddard. I think just because it's Thursday, I'm going to move him up ahead of Goddard. Just the 1 spot. Just a quick adjustment. 1 spot's not bad. Last week, I was going a little bit nuts with it. But yeah, so that's Tyler O's work. And I'll promote the other one now. It's Stealing Signals, Ben Gretsch. I'm on his page now, so I was in the middle of reading and scanning. This is about all the week 1 games. The one thing I will say about Gretsch is, man, cut down the words, bro. Get to the point. He is a storyteller, and you can tell on his when he's on YouTube or whatever, his streams. He's very long-winded. What I constantly kind of say about him is he'll use 100 words when 10 are good enough. But he's pretty damn smart. He knows his stuff. You got to read a lot, but there are some gems in here. And I'll be using his work to kind of um, create some blurbs in my rankings, and you'll kind of get a little synopsis of his work there. But if you want the full detail, his stealing signals. It's another. Is it another Substack? I think. Um, at least it's a free article this week. I don't know if it is every week. Um, I follow him on Blue Sky. I highly recommend jumping on Blue Sky. A lot of fantasy analysts are really starting to gravitate over there and get away from Twitter. I wish more of the teams and like guys like Schefter would come over, but there are, and I'll show you kind of here. Here's an example on my page, but this NFL News and NFL Daily News, they take a lot of information from Twitter and just kind of put it on Blue Sky. So my point is this: Blue Sky, you don't get a whole lot of the ads and just interference and nonsense. It's kind of, it's what Twitter was 10 years ago when you could build communities on there, and Blue Sky is getting there, but it was started by the original Twitter owner, and it's run by a very intelligent staff. Get off of the garbage Twitter and come to Blue Sky. It is well worth it, and you will get all the same information. And if I think something's lacking, I will start to copy and paste over there and tweet it myself. Oh, wow. Things got dark. The sun went down. I know what I wanted to do too. The reason I had my rankings over the other side here was so the white screen could give some light, so you can see my beautiful face. My 53-year-old beautiful face. I turned 53 today. That's why I emphasize that. All right. Anyway, if you're watching, hey, say hey in the chat. Let me know you're here. Please like, subscribe. If you're listening, you probably already are. Tell your friends. Get that word of mouth out there for me. As I said before, I've pissed off a lot of the industry, so not a lot of people in the industry like to promote me anymore, because I called out some, highly respected guys that were doing BS. I'm not going to get into detail. I think there are a lot of fake people in the world, and just like the rest of the world, the fantasy football industry has a good crop of them. Anyway, help get the word out there. I appreciate it. Just going to take a look in the Wheel Route Discord. If you're not already there, get there before it goes under a paywall and subscription. If you're in, you're grandfathered in. If you're not, you're going to have to pay for it soon. As soon as I get my stuff together and set up the website so that I can collect money in subscriptions and that sort of thing. All right. Anyway, question from Chalkboard Man. Drop the kicker for Fannin, but going to need to pick one up eventually. Drop Matthew Golden or Tootin. I said, all right. He says you could also drop Spears or Ayuk, could put Worthy in the IR spot, but not sure when they're going to declare Worthy out. 10-team league. Could also drop Fannin, don't actually need him, got him cheap. I suggested, try to make a 2-for-1 or 3-for-2 trade. But really, everybody's going to know their league better than me. You could, in the Discord, you could fully describe it, put a screenshot in there, let me know. give me all the details, and I can make a better evaluation. Um, but what I was telling him is that I would lean towards dropping Spears, but apparently it sounds like his league has two IR spots, and if somebody has an empty IR spot, they're going to scoop him right up. Um, I also think it's going to be 3 or 4 weeks before Tootin does much of anything, even though they did get rid of Tank Bigsby. Apparently, LaQuint Allen is really taking over a lot of pass catching duties. Um, but now that I look at it, Matthew Golden may not do spit this week either. Chalkboard man, if you watch this, no, you don't want to drop Matthew Golden because he plays tonight, which means he could probably hit waivers before Sunday's game. You want to drop whoever, whenever you got to make a decision like this, you want to drop him like 5 minutes before game time on Sunday, or the last time whatever the last time is, you can drop on Sunday, so that the player's on waivers on Monday and people at least have to pay for it. But a lot of times after the Sunday games, if a guy like Tootin doesn't do anything, nobody's going to want to claim him. They're going to want to claim the next hot item, so you can just pick them up for cheap, or however much you can gauge it, however much he's going to cost. Maybe let him go through waivers and get him on ad drop if you're lucky. But anyway, so that's what I recommend. I also asked what his other tight end was. He said Bowers. Definitely go with Bowers this week. It was just dinged up. He came out as a precaution. He should be good to go this week. They do have the, I think, Monday night late game. So I'd imagine in a 10-team league, that sounds pretty shallow. Michael Mayer would be on waivers. Michael Mayer, he's ranked really low by everybody. I'm going to move him up a bit. Kind of hard though. He is in that Noah Gray, Cole Kmet, Tyler Conklin. Even, wow, I put Ingram below him. I just talked about Ingram. Is he going to play? Maybe he's not going to play. That's why I moved him down. Let me double check. Ingram's also going again, or they're at Indianapolis. Let me see this real quick. Picked up a calf injury. Status will be updated Friday. I think I just read something about him too. I think he's likely not to play. If he is, I definitely have to move him way up. But yeah, Michael Mayer, I think he's going to see about 4 targets, which means even with Bowers in, I might move him up ahead of like Dalton Schultz, but really I'm more likely to just move a Dalton Schultz down and play with it a little bit. But anyway, that doesn't affect anything tonight. We want to make that decision for a while. I was just thinking in his case, in Chalkboard Man's case, if you have Fannin on your bench, but all of a sudden Monday night, Bowers, limps into the stadium and can't play, you got to come up with that last second ad drop, and you're not going to drop Bowers. You got to figure out who else to drop, and then all of a sudden you're dropping 2 people, and it gets a little bit messy. And really, you won't have anyone you can drop unless they're on the opposing team, unless they're on the Chargers. Yeah, that's just a tough situation. And I guess, yeah, I mean, I would, like, if that's the situation, I would definitely pick up Michael Mayer. He's better than Conklin or anybody the Chargers have at this point. Anyway, Yeah, that's just for the rankings. Okay, I had another. It's funny. My boys ask different questions all over the place. Um, but yeah, I guess they have different questions too. So Hummus and Peta asks, full PPR, would you start Rome or Travis Hunter? Um, so he saw that Travis is going to play more defense this week, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to play less offense. Um, just keep tabs on that. I expect Travis Hunter to play the same amount of offense, but my real response is I would go Rome. Just Hunter was a great best ball pitch you pick. You're never really going to know when to start him, until like the second half of the season. Second half of the season, he's probably startable just about every week. But that's only it's only if Lawrence can really support two startable wide receivers. He already has sorry, little Clint. Like, he already has Brian Thomas. Um, where did my water go? There it goes. He already has Brian Thomas as a top 5 wide receiver. He's gonna have to get him the ball 8 to 10 times at a minimum. It leaves plenty for Hunter, but they've got to do a lot of. I expect this week, against Cincinnati. But Rome is hard to deny too. He was pretty heavily used last week. Let me double check. Oh, I have Rome Odunze at 37. Actually, hold on one second. I will need to adjust that. Most likely, yeah. Yeah, Rome had 9 targets last week, and I don't know why the projections have him low. Actually, I have him ranked below Travis Hunter, but I am going to move him just ahead of Travis Hunter. Yeah, it's hard to move him up much more. I could move Marquise Brown down, but man, he had 16 targets last week, and just seemed rusty as hell. Dropped a few of them, but against Philadelphia's pass defense, I'm surprised they weren't really exploited last week. I don't think they're as good as they played last week. But I could be remembering 2 years ago too. Last year they seemed pretty decent against the pass. Yeah, gonna have to play around with that idea a little bit. But we shall see. So yeah, Hummus and Pita. I'm not quite done with that analysis, so I'll get back to you on that as we get closer to Sunday. But it's kind of hard to deny either one. Did some good drafting in the mid rounds there. I had one other question that came in. Any questions in the chat, let me know. Please post them. Lieutenant DAM had a couple of waiver questions. I think there's Tootin or Ollie Gordon. Ollie Gordon is droppable in most leagues at this point. I expect Miami to bounce back, but I mean, I wouldn't want to drop him, but I would definitely have Tootin over Gordon at this point. Fannin or Loveland. I would still hold Loveland, but I would also want Fannin. Did I move them? Yeah, I gotta move Fannin. Oh, but Loveland I have as tight end 22. Cole Kmet still getting looks. And there's a lot of, I think Loveland only had 2 targets last week. Yeah, 2 for 2 for 12 yards. Really not much going on there. Caleb Williams looked good, but he looked good with his legs, not necessarily with his arm. As the season goes on, Loveland will move up, but right now I have Where's Fannin? As said before, 19. I'm likely to move him way up by Sunday. They're just not projecting. They should be projecting fairly high against Baltimore's pass defense. Yeah, and I'm going to move him for right now. I'm just going to move Fannin to tight end 16 ahead of Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson had a great week last week. It was like 95% of snaps, highest target rate on the team, I believe. And let me just see for sure. Yeah, he had 11 targets last week. But he was playing Arizona, and Arizona is traditionally awful against tight end. San Francisco, I need to look into it, but it depends on. There's a certain linebacker in San Francisco that was an incredible tight end defender, but when he doesn't play, they're awful. When he does play, they're great. I never remember defensive player names. I really haven't since I last played in the IDP league maybe 5 years ago. It really kept me in tune on defenses, though, so I should probably join one or two just to kind of understand the defensive players and maybe identify good or bad matchups a little bit better than I do. I usually rely on Gretsch or Corbin or there's also Jordan Vanek. That's one I need to look and see where he is. I don't think he's on Blue Sky. That's why I've kind of lost touch with him. But he was great wide receiver, analyst type guy with especially with matchups and that sort of thing. Hopefully, we have some of his information for Sunday. All right. Lieutenant DAM also asks Butte, Hollywood, or QJ on a worthy team. I said QJ is probably better long term, but Hollywood would be the guy for the next few weeks until Rashee Rice comes back or until Hollywood gets hurt because he always does. Butte, I like as kind of a deep roster kind of deep roster kind of guy. Just if when we hit bye weeks, you might want to. God, I just got a funny meme sent to me. Um, it's the old Oregon Trail carriage with a little, how it's you have died from dysentery. He used to be what did I say that was? Oregon Trail video game. Uh, it says you have died from listening to RFK Jr. Anyway, sorry about that. Didn't mean to get political. Just hold on. Dropped something very important. Just thought it was funny. Anyway, all right. So yeah, that's what I said. Butte's, I like him to as a stack with May. I actually want to look real quick. What time is it? Just want to make sure my rankings are in all updated. Not that it really matters. I haven't moved anyone from tonight, I don't think. Butte. Oh, yeah. Butte, I have as wide receiver 50, but he's right behind Rashid Shaheed, Romeo Dobbs, Quentin Johnson, Pittman. He might move up a couple spots. I have him ahead of Cooper Kupp and Adam Thielen. I wonder if Darnell Mooney's going to be back this week. I didn't think he was, but projections have him catching some passes. Anyway, let me hit publish on this just so I don't forget and get caught with my pants down. And actually, what I want to do, they always sneak in like Thursdays. I always kind of miss somebody who is out at the bottom of my rankings, and I just don't like it. Little OCD when it comes to out tags being still in the rankings. Okay, should be good there. Where are we going from here? Another good subscription, The Athletic. They usually have specials like $2 a month or $1 a month. Again, I don't have a promo code for them, but I definitely use their information, and it's super cheap. You get information from all kinds of sports and everything. I just pay attention to the football stuff, but worth a subscription there. And again, I don't have a promo code, but if you could somehow let them know I sent you there, it would be appreciated, just to kind of get either the street cred or acknowledgement, or maybe they send me some sort of offer or promo code. What do we got? Let's do a battle royale just before I go. I do have an Underdog promo code, so if you are not on Underdog, get on there. I believe it's $1,000 or 100% deposit match up to $1,000. If it were me, I would take $1,000, deposit it, have $2,000 worth of play. I promise you that if you haven't played it before, that it's a lot of fun, and there are plenty of games out there all year round to play. Best ball is great on here, and it's one of those things where I'm rarely successful because I play in these bigger tournaments. I don't max enter because I'm not a high roller like that yet, at least not on here. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, easy to use, easy to upload rankings. And hopefully next summer, or actually next winter, when I start drafting best ball in February, I will have rankings that you can upload directly to Underdog. Just didn't have the time or wherewithal to get that done this year. Shoot. I'm trying to think. Last time I had the 101, I didn't have it in Battle Royale. I have McCaffrey ahead of Henry, but Henry is slightly higher in ADP, not consistent there though. Yeah, I'm going to go with McCaffrey as my 101. Draft doesn't start for 25 seconds. You guys can see this, right? Yeah, I'll go CMC to start. The one, just sorry, I paused there. Just thinking, and didn't want to do it out loud. So again, before I even get into this, if there are any questions in the chat, please let me know. Even if you don't have a question, say hi. It's always good to hear from people. And hit that thumbs up for me, please. Helps. You know, I started looking at this too, and I did a couple of other tournaments that have the same ADP stuff. Yeah, the 4 core kind of running backs that just about everybody has ranked as the top 4 are worthy of a first round pick, but I'm starting to find running backs deeper. Jonathan Taylor's going against Denver this week, so I'm not going with him. James Cook, I kind of like against the Jets, or the Jets have a decent run defense, but Breece Hall against Buffalo, I'm not against that. James Conner has a great matchup. Travis Etienne against Cincinnati. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess you could go Kamara or Bolin, but yeah, a lot of people are noticing that it seems as though those top four running backs do have considerable value over the rest, and you only need to start one running back. So most people do start two running backs, though. So getting one in the first seems prudent. Even though CD Lamb, I think, is going to have a tremendous week against the Giants. I think he's going to clean up those drops. Those drops mean nothing other than he is going to come in far more focused and maybe a bit angry, which is always how I like my wide receivers. At the turn here, I might grab one of these quarterbacks if they fall to me. They could go right here in the two picks before me. And I have Trey McBride in each one of these things. It's hard to deny him against Carolina. But I actually really like Puka's gone, right? Yeah. So just because it kind of falls right in my lap, I am going to go Trey McBride and Brian Thomas, who I think should have a great week. Who's Jacksonville playing again? Cincinnati, yeah. High scoring affair. Christian McCaffrey's always great. Trey McBride against Carolina should be great. But I actually like, I think I might have said it earlier, maybe not. I have, what the tight end going the other way. Jacksonville's tight end. Or no, sorry, Carolina's tight end. Jatavian Sanders. I have him as tight end 20 this week. I actually want to put him in like the top 15. Going against Arizona, I'm going to play that Jawan Johnson crushed last week against Arizona. I think it's more the defense than it is the offensive player. So I'm definitely going to put, and already have put some, Jatavian Sanders in some DFS lineups. Owner's Box. I'm going to have a link to Owner's Box for a promo code. We'll play it there. I did play one of the smaller ones over at Fanball. I stay away from DK and FanDuel. FanDuel just, it always asks me to change my login, and it's just a nightmare to try to log into that. And DK, there's so many people. The tournaments are so big that you can have a really good lineup and barely min cash. So it's like striking lightning. And like all the pros are playing on those two sites. So I'm looking for something a little bit softer. And Owner's Box always has. Oh shoot! So who do I got? Just want to check. AJ Brown is pretty low. I don't need tight end. Don't really need running back, but I might have one staring me in the face. I need a quarterback. I could go Joe Burrow and T. Higgins at this turn. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try a little stacky stack here. Although the narrative over the past week is Cincinnati never starts out strong. You know, they always falter week one. They always falter week two as well. So maybe that's not the greatest stack, but going against Jacksonville, I already got the bring back. Kind of matches up pretty sweetly. And then just as the last pick, I can kind of pick a dart throw. Let me think. Yeah, and that Cincinnati Jacksonville game does have the highest game total, so it's not a bad move. We'll see. I do think Burrow is coming into the season healthy this year for the first time in a couple of years, I think. And all the weapons are there for them. So they'll probably get back on track against Jacksonville. Jacksonville also kind of, they won last week, but they're, it was against Carolina. They didn't look great. If Breece Hall comes back to me, I will grab him. JSN against Pittsburgh, no. I already have McBride, so I don't really want Harrison. I already have a quarterback, so let's get rid of that. I could go Tyreek Hill. I could go George Pickens. I would kind of rather go a second running back. Truth being told, I could go Hollywood there too. Pollard should probably have a decent week. We're at my pick. Breece Hall is still there. I should scroll down, but I don't know. I don't feel like this combo is all of that. I got Burrow 4 spots behind ADP. Breece Hall 6 spots behind ADP, probably only drafted in half, probably about 70% of drafts. Let me see. Anybody else behind ADP? I guess I reached a little bit on Higgins, but it only makes sense with the stack. McBride a little bit behind ADP. I probably didn't scroll down enough on that last pick. Maybe would have been better off with Tyreek, George Pickens, or Hollywood Brown. But it is what it is. I like to screenshot these while I can, just because the draft boards disappear and I kind of like to review them before going into my next drafts. Let me just, sorry, I save it and everything and probably bore you by doing this, but it's the bookkeeping that I feel necessary to review later. I think I can show one I had earlier. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Where do I want to go? Let's share that one. What time we got? 8:07. Let's get ready for game time. All right. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Please hit the like, subscribe, turn on notifications. And after the show's over, please leave a comment, can say anything, recommendations. Somebody was really critical of my rankings article last week. Really appreciated the feedback. I generally do things in a certain format because the SEO or whatever there is, but to get it more seen. But what's going to help me most is word of mouth and clicking that like and subscribing. Appreciate it. Have a great time. Hopefully it's a great game tonight, and I'll talk to you later.